Welcome to the Mindful Poetic Stories podcast. Now, I'm here with the host of that show, Patricia Ahern. And Patricia is a mental fitness self-love coach with a passion for building more creativity, curiosity, imagination, and openness into life. She helps women who feel unhappy, deflated, burnt out, who have given so much that they have lost themselves, finding their path to understanding, knowing, and loving self, reconnecting with their heart and voice, finding zest and enthusiasm with peace of mind, so that they can build a more fulfilling relationship with self and then with others. So, Patricia, would you like to share with the listeners a little bit about what the inspiration was behind you doing what you're doing, helping women with self-love?
First of all, Karen, thank you. It's great to be here with you and to share that inspiration and story. My story starts in 2017. My background is medical administration. And in 2017, I had a tough year and I just felt miserable. And I was no longer happy in the job that I'd been doing for a long time. And by 2018, early 2018, I was looking for something else. I did feel deflated. I did feel exhausted. And I realized that I was burnt out eventually. I found coaching and it has changed everything for me since then. And it was during my second month of training as a coach that I plucked up the courage and I made the bold and brave move to resign from my job as a medical administrator, which I had been doing for nearly 20 years. And it empowered me really, because I knew I didn't really want to be in that, what I call in a way, the rat race. I then started a self-employed business, still as a medical administrator, because old feelings came up. I talk about imposter syndrome, that those less than feelings, not feeling good enough. When I was training as a coach, they came up going, are you going to make it as a coach? So I set up the business in medical admin and I was working from home, and that was in mid-2018. And by the time 2019 came, I was doing a bit of coaching, but still had feelings of, who am I as a coach? I found a coach that was recommended near where I had been working in Marylebone Road, W1, and somebody had recommended, Jonathan was his name, and I went to see him in this big, huge, posh block of flats on Marylebone Road, and he was a coach, and I remember thinking, would I ever be coaching in a place like this? Or he was great, but I had a great aha moment working with him at the first or second session. He asked me what I'd been doing before, and I had said medical admin, and now I was working from home, and I explained the whole process of the office I worked in. And he looked at me and said, Tricia, it sounds like you've been coaching for over 20 years. And it really gave me the boost in confidence, because really it was true. I had been helping patients on their health journey. And now coaching was helping people in different areas of their life. And some of them can be health, because when you see clients, sometimes they are having health problems as part of other issues that are going on. So that was really the pinnacle, and it really gave me the boost I needed back then in 2019. And I worked with him for a good while. And then I continued on my coaching journey, but plus with the medical admin, self-employed. And I found my way eventually that's led me to here. But what I've realized in my journey is that falling in love with yourself is a beautiful foundation to build your life from, which I never learned before or growing up. I grew up really believing that self-love was selfish, which is a little sad, but there's no better time than now to shift thinking of all kinds and realizing that we can shift those old outdated beliefs and truths we once had. Because self-care and self-love, I believe, is self-preservation, because you simply cannot pour from an empty cup. So for me, I'm glad I found coaching, and now it's a privilege to help others on their journey, moving away from those limiting beliefs and to move towards self-love.
And so, for those, if anybody's feeling like they have imposter syndrome, how do you must have some kind of process to encourage this self-love? So, how do you help them overcome this?
There's a 3-step process that I use, and it's the 3 R's. It's recognizing, realizing, and reconnecting. Because now, as a positive intelligence coach, mental fitness, as mentioned, is underpinned by positive intelligence. A lot of the work I'd done before was around change. And even when I was studying, I researched change. And I always knew I wanted to be a transformational coach. But now I even have shifted my thinking around that there's nothing wrong with us. There's nothing to change. Yes, habits we can change. But really, the beautiful journey is reconnecting with who we were always meant to be. And so recognizing is recognizing the patterns. So we all have this negative limiting beliefs that are driving patterns of behavior, recognizing what they are, then realizing which ones are helping us, which ones are hindering us, which ones are serving us, which ones are debilitating us. And it's about becoming the guru in your own life. That's, as a coach, I help people to recognize and then realize which ones they keep, which ones they can try and shift away from, and then reconnecting to that sage within, our intuition, that beautiful voice that has carried me through life. And it might just be a whisper. Even as a coach, when I had feelings of not being good enough, there was that voice that just got stronger and stronger as I engaged with it. Keep going, Patricia. You found your passion and purpose. Keep going and build that patience, gentleness, kindness, caring, look after yourself. And that's what I help people to reconnect with and engage with. So we're building, we're not trying to break down a system. We're just recognizing it and realizing what's serving us and what's hindering us. And then it's about building that reconnection. I do workshops and presentations, and I ask the question, do we all have an intuition? Do we have that gut feeling, that lovely feeling that we're in the right place? And everyone always says yes. Do we have negative voices that get in our way? Everyone always says yes. So it's really recognizing, realizing that part of us, and then building that beautiful sage energy, which is based on love and self-love, which overcomes the self-sabotaging patterns of negative reinforcement thoughts and beliefs.
Love that. But so many people out there, if they are feeling like that, like you were at one time, what made you reach out to a coach? Because so many of them, what do you think holds them back from reaching out to someone to get help for this?
That's a great question, Karen, because I think we're on a merry-go-round of negative reinforcement, habitual behavior that's an autopilot, and we get stuck. And I was stuck. But I'm a big person into inspirational quotes, so I use them a lot. But Henry Ford said, and this really helped me to move, he said, old men are always telling young men to save money. That's bad advice. What I didn't save a penny until after 40. Invest in yourself. So what happens is people think, I don't have time. When you ask people these days, I'm too busy, I don't have time, I don't have the money. But really realizing that we're on this pattern and we're on this merry-go-round that's not very merry, but it's on autopilot, that investing in ourselves can be the best investment we ever make in our whole life. Positive intelligence is based on cognitive psychology, neuroscience, positive psychology. There was a beautiful outcome of the research of positive psychology. Pretty simple, but it says, success won't make us happy, doesn't really make us happy, but happiness brings success. And when you think about it, really think about it, it makes sense that when you're happy, like happier people make healthier choices. I've battled with weight all my life and I've been at every slimming club since I was 16. Again, happier people make healthier choices. The last years of building mental fitness and that self-love is a beautiful process because I don't want to self-sabotage anymore. Because the other thing I ask in presentations and workshops, what is self-sabotage? Not everyone has heard the phrase, but would you sabotage, say it's destroying or obstructing something, would you sabotage someone you really truly loved deeply? And the answer is always no. Would you self-sabotage if you had that self-love within yourself? And everyone smiles and it makes sense that you wouldn't. It makes perfect sense to me. So when we don't realize we're feeding into a system that's not bringing us back anything good, because what you feed grows. So time, money held me back in the past. But when I moved away from that and coaching helped me to, in my training, in my study, but also being coached helped me to realize that. And again, it's that pattern of recognizing, realizing, and reconnecting, because there are those limiting beliefs and what they're doing to us, really.
So what else do you think is there that sort of holds people back from dealing with this?
On my podcast, Mindful Poetic Stories, I go through my own journey of what held me back. And episode 3 is about personal power. Now, I never believed that I had any. And actually, Alice Walker says, what's the common reason that people don't, that they give up their power? And it's because they don't believe they have any. That really resonated with me. And so we don't go looking for something that we don't believe is there. But I believe that everybody has it. And I've been through that self-sabotaging and not believing in myself, having low self-esteem or feeling less than or not feeling good enough. And for me, that's why I wanted to create this podcast, because I wanted to tell my story. Because when you're out doing workshops and presentations, you realize that people are feeling the negativity, but they don't know what to do. So again, another pattern that can hinder people is the pleaser program. And a lot of women relate to the pleaser program because we're conditioned more than men, but it is in men as well, to give and give the nurturer, to give themselves to everybody, but not leave anything for themselves. So if that's that belief in you that you don't matter, and that goes back to the self-care and that you cannot pour from an empty cup and building that self-love and having that phrase, I matter, synonymous with everything you do in life, in every area of your life, because I was walking around for so long believing, and I think that's why I burnt myself out between the doctor and the patient. I was the medical administrator. The doctor was important. The patient was important. But I forgot about myself. And people do that. Women, especially, those ingrained thoughts conditioned in us. So for me, helping people, again, recognizing and realizing this and then reconnecting to that I matter, you matter, we matter equation, as I put it. Because it's also not about shifting to the other side, saying, okay, I spent my life not thinking I mattered. Now I do, and that's it. It's not about swinging the pendulum to the other side. It's about that equation in the middle and having a nice, happy balance.
Perfect. And so through your podcast, what are you looking to achieve?
Oh, I thought about this podcast a few years ago. It's been in my mind. And I remember calling my brother saying, I'm going to do a podcast. I'm going to call it Patricia's Poetry Podcast. Hasn't that got a great alliteration? But by the time I really started knuckling down and thinking more about it, I thought people will think that it's just poetry. But I realized I was writing more than poetry. I don't even call it poetry or poems. I call it poetic stories. And I bring my life experience, my stories. And as being Irish, I think I didn't realize there was a storyteller and a writer in me, actually. At the beginning, I became a writer and a poet. And then one day I thought, I didn't. There was a writer and a poet always in me, but I didn't, it was in my own way, basically. And all of those, I can't, I'm not good enough, I can't do this and that. So those are the thoughts that we have that get in the way of our personal power, but also our gifts and talents that we have. So finally, I started brainstorming when I said, I'm doing this. And I remember you can put a whole list of things down and brainstorm, but when that phrase comes up, and mindful poetic stories, mindfulness is a big part of my life. It's a big part of my coaching practice. Poetic stories are a big part of my life. I've always been great at sitting around a table and giving a few stories out. My dad was an amazing rhymer. He never wrote anything, maybe because he didn't believe himself either. But he was a great rhymer, and I remember throwing my eyes up to heaven going, oh my God, he just rhymed a lot in a funny way. So that poetic rhyming. So they're stories that rhyme, really. That's what I call them. And what I'm trying to achieve is, somebody said to me 2 days ago, Trisha, I love listening to your weekly podcast. I feel informed, enlightened, and entertained. And that is what I love, the feedback. And somebody else actually said, I feel entertained and educated. So throwing in that lightheartedness, the stories, the coaching experience, coaching exercises, my life experience, and subjects that sometimes can be hard to speak about. We can speak about them in a lighthearted way, but also that personal transformation and that hope, the messages of hope and inspiration that we can get through things and thrive. And I think one of my clients had summed it up as well, that my poetry gave those messages of hope, which she really benefited from. So that's what I want to share with the world. I'm ready to share, but there's an old part of me, and the old version, that would have been, no way, you can't tell these stories to the world. There's times where I do share things that maybe two people in my life know. So I'm ready to share, to help other people with the desire to inspire.
Awesome. And so if there are listeners out there that they're obviously listening to this podcast, but they want to take that next step and maybe they need help with imposter syndrome or all sorts of things that they need to really focus on self-love, what should the listeners do next?
What the listeners could do next really is listen to my Mindful Poetic Stories podcast. There's an episode 3 that's personal power. That's all about that part of us, that empowering part of us, of the sage within. And I talk about that. I have an episode called Ode to Doubt, which speaks into that fear that stops us of meeting our own potential and can hinder us. In the reconnection process, I've reconnected with my 8-year-old self. So there's an episode called Beautiful Young Girl and Me, and it's my story of reconnection. And also through my coaching program, I help people to enhance their performance, well-being, and relationships. And one of the biggest, most important achievements in my coaching has been my relationship with my mother. Our bond has deepened, and my mother at 86 took on the inside out journey of self-love, and I'm so proud of her, and she's an inspiration. So I dedicated a whole podcast called The Bee's Knees to my mum. And I also write blogs with Psychology's magazine website. So each episode has a blog, and the editor actually mentioned that she loves reading them, but the most touching has been the story about my mum. So that reconnection and how coaching can help us enhance our relationships. But first, we enhance the relationship with ourselves. That is the bedrock, that person. It starts with the person in the mirror, and then everything just enhances from there. So all of the podcasts have a title, which is the title of the poetic story. So I tell the story in the poetic fashion, and then I talk about the insights and inspiration. And then I do encourage journaling at the end, and I give listeners some exercises to take away. And then if that podcast episodes set something off in you that you want to know more, and you think that I'm the person to help you with this self-love journey, and you're ready to go on that journey, reach out to me at hello@pacoaching.co.uk. That's my email address, hello@pacoaching.co.uk. And you can find the website, and I would be very happy to book a 1 hour discovery call that you can find out more how you can move from self-sabotage to self-love.
Fantastic. So thank you, Patricia. Next week, Patricia will be back with her poetic stories. Goodbye for now.
Thank you very much, Karen.